going to talk about some of the distractions and challenges that's causing this. For many years, my great-grandmother would say this in Danish. I guess the Norwegians have a chance of understanding it. But roughly translated, it means that whether for slaying parties, they come when they come, and you take them when they come.
You're not actually going to pronounce it for us?
I can do that. Kan det føre gæstebud sammen, når det kommer? Let's say. They still haven't found a cure for it. One of the distractions I got hit by was a science project called the ESO Extremely Large Telescope. ESO is the European Southern Observatory. They run astronomical telescopes on the southern part of the planet. Since Europe are not there, that means we can see stars we can't see from home. And amongst other projects, they built four 8-meter telescopes in Chile, at the top of Chile, in the desert. And that worked out pretty well. So they thought, how big a telescope can we build? And they came up with this concept called OWL, which was a 100-meter telescope, a telescope with a mirror of 100 meters. And they did the math on that, did the engineering, and they figured out it might just be possible to build it. These carbon nanotubes come around real soon. Then they figured out the cost, and it was sort of like, well, that was fine. The scientific goal of these telescopes is to do infrared studies looking for planets you could live on. In other words, we're talking about looking for life in the universe and everything. So they came up with the extremely large telescope, which would obviously have a mirror diameter of 42 meters, because that would be the right number, right? And they proposed this and did the engineering. You could actually do that with materials like steel and stuff like that. And then after a couple of looks at the budget, we ended up with a telescope of 39 meters of diameter. This picture is from a recent scientific conference where they did a mock-up on lawn. This is going to be the mirror surface of this telescope. That's going to be adaptive mirrors. You can move the mirrors around because when you shift it over, all the steel will bend and so on. And they need a computer to actually do these real-time corrections. And normally they've done this with custom hardware, FPGAs and DSPs and stuff like that. And there's certain kinds of BME boards. If you put them on eBay, they will be snapped up by Flagstaff Observatory because the old shit they have is breaking down. They need all the spare parts they can get. So they're very interested in getting this to run standard PCs. So we got a prototype task to build a real-time computer for this one. And this is some of their prototype hardware. The big black thing here is the M3 mirror, which is responsible for the global tilt. That mirror surface is a couple of meters in diameter, and that will move at 500 hertz to correct the global tilt. And the yellow structure in the back is actually a mock-up of a little bit of the main telescope mirror. You can see they have these hexagonal mirror segments on there. So I can't say no to projects like that. That's just no way. The other distraction is that this is what I could see from my living room window. And you'll notice a sale sign over there on the left. That's a building lot. It's slightly more than it looks because it's actually 2 acres in the middle of town after a developer which went bankrupt. So now I have more weeds, blackberries, and stuff like that than anybody ever needs. And my plan is to build a house over there. Right now I live here in this house, but I'm going to build a house over here. So that's taking a bit of time also. But there's an interesting side effect of this, which I'll get to later. So when we did Varnish 1.0, that was not very hard to do something that was better than was on the market. We're talking about, you remember picking apples like a little kid? It was like, hey, I can do this. We're in a different situation now. People have deployed Varnish. We picked all the low-hanging fruit. Now we get to the difficult stuff. So we shouldn't expect development to run as fast as it used It's a more careful process. You hurt yourself more if you do something. That's actually not that uncommon. This is a plot from the FreeBSD project, the FreeBSD releases. And you'll notice in the start, we could kick up releases like every 3 months. I was like, now it doesn't call up if you press Control-C, let's make a release. And then at some point you start to get to the hard part. Between FreeBSD 4.0 and 5.0, we've got multiprocessor systems. It's slightly harder to write an operating system that runs on multiple CPUs than one that runs on one CPU. And you'll notice how the 4 branch lived on forever. 4.11, this one goes to 11, I should call that t-shirt. We even did a 2.29 release here, all the way from over there. So you'll see that things have slowed down now. It becomes a mature operating system. We don't have the same red hot pace of development. And we're brought here now for Varnish, somewhere in this interval now. 4.0 will introduce some significant changes to the underlying assumptions. And it's still we're getting to be a mature project, so people will be like, but we're still running Varnish 2.0. We don't want to upgrade all the time. So the approach we have to releases is that we have flag day releases, which are the .serve releases. This is when we change basic assumptions that will basically force everybody to actually read the documentation again, even though they know how everything works. Changes to the VTL methods and structures and stuff like that. Significant changes to the VMOD APIs. That's a little less barrier than VTL. And change to important defaults, like starting to do if modified sets by default to the backend. In minor releases, we can do all the stuff that normally won't affect people, like fixing bugs, adding new features, stuff like that. People will be able to take the VTL program and still run on the new version, and they can use new features when they want to. So 4.0 is one of the big ones, and the really fundamental assumption that we're breaking here is that until now, Varnish has been, you have a request come in, and we use the context of the request to do whatever we have to do. We always have a request at hand. Now we're breaking that down so that the back-end processing is parallel. Because we have this HTTP2 thing on the horizon. The IATF HTTP NG working group is looking at standardizing HTTP 2.0. And they're not doing a very good job at it, but they'll probably do it anyway, and we'll have to relate to that. And the big thing in HTTP 2.0 is that it will be multiplied. You will have the client send 3 requests in one go, and you can serve the responses in whatever order. And they even want to put server push in, so that you ask for index.html, and the server will say, oh, here's index.html, and you want this CSS and these images and this malware, and oh, sorry, oh yeah, take that anyway. That breaks the fundamental request-response model. So you're trying to push your CSS on the client, and the client says, I got that already, stop it, and complicates things immensely. But we want to be able to get there. We want to be able to do something about it once it starts looking like something that can be used. So the Varnish 1.0 model was really simple, right? Get a request. Do we have a cache item model by special? Done. I have no idea how that looks for HTTP 2.0 because HTTP 2.0 is not done yet. We do know some of the things about it. We know that it will have some kind of parallelism, multiplexing, pipelining, whatever they want to call it. And we might as well pave the road even though that standard is probably not going to be a good one. I have a high probability that somebody's going to make a HTTP 1.2 when they see what HTTP 2.0 is going to be. Somebody will weed out HTTP 1.1 and make it 1.2. I can't imagine anything else. So the model we'll have for 2.0 and stuff like that is that we may have to dedicate a thread to each connection to keep the state updated. I'd like to avoid that if we can, but time will show whether that's possible. We'll have a thread that runs a request, but the backend fetching will be poked off onto another thread that can run in parallel, which enables us to do streaming streaming while stale, or fetch while stale, and all these things. And that's a major change from how we used to do things. It's taking a lot more coding than I would have expected. The current code right now looks something like this. In the request thread, we come up, we have a miss, we don't have an object. So we build up the backend request, we're going to send to the backend. And at that point, we can release the request thread. So he might go back and deliver a stale object while the fetching continues over here. The fetch thread will call the backend fetch detail function, where you can polish the thing you sent to the backend. Send the request, receive the headers back from the backend, call the backend response, where you can validate what you got from the backend, saying, does this look sane, yada, yada, yada. At this point, we mark the busy object valid if we accept the object. And that means the other guy over there can start streaming the object as the body comes in here. So we now get a parallelism in this sense. There's a small wrinkle on it in that if it is a pass operation, we also send the request body to the backend. So we can't release the request to go parallel until we've done that. We may also want to be able to send the body in on misses, but that one will be a feature. The default backend fetch is pretty simple because this is mostly if we want to do something before we send it to the backend. If you don't want to do if modify sends, this is where you will remove that header stopping out. On the other hand, this one I'm not happy with right now. This is not really user-friendly. It's necessary, but it's not user-friendly. It's very important for me that people have a chance to start using Varnish without actually taking a Varnish software course first. They should be able to know what they're doing when it comes to the course. So we'll have to work a bit on the layout of the default functions to make it more readable. I don't know who wrote that if, I suspect it's Toller. Is it you, Christian?
I added some bits there, but I didn't write it. Actually.
We will need to do some favor though. This is the current VCL lookup, which is where you end up if you find something in the cache. If the object is uncacheable, which is a hit for pass object, we'll do a pass here. I'm not actually sure that makes much sense. There's nothing much else you could do actually, but I think we'll leave it in VCL so it can override. And then if you have a valid object, you deliver it. If you have a grazed object, you deliver it, the stale one, in this one. And it will actually do a backend fetch in parallel while you deliver the stale object. That may need a bit more work also, but that's what it looks like right now. Another thing we've done in 4.0 is we've added objects to VMODs. How many of you have written VMODs? Okay. VMODs are modules you can call from a VCL program. And we have moved the backend directors into VMODs now. They belong there much more than they do in the core code. So what you do is you create an object, in this case a random director, create one called foo, and we add a couple of backends to it, and then in VCL receive we can say, give me whatever backend you think I should use at this point. So that makes it a lot easier to write new backend directors, prioritized by time or place or whatever. And then in the VMODs you created, you actually define, you say I have a new object that's called random, and you give it methods, so you can say what arguments you take for creation, so handing in weights and thresholds and all that stuff. I think this is going to help VMOD writers a lot. It has a lot of flexibility. For instance, being able to open a database, you can create an object for each database you want to open or something like that. We also changed the calling convention in the compile code. It used to be that we had a struct request. We always have a struct request, so everything hung off that one. But now that we have threads that run VCL code, which are backend fetch threads, they don't have a request. So now we have to pass 2 arguments, actually 3 arguments, because we have to pass the worker thread and the request and the busy object, and we have one and not the other, and so on. And it got pretty messy. So instead we've done a VTX or a VRT CTX context container, which looks like this. So this is what you pass around in the C code, in the VMOD and so on. It's a pointer to a structure that contains all the bits you will need. The VSL where to send log records, the VCL program you're executing, the workspace where you can get stuff, the HTTP requests, actually that one's respond. No, that's backend here, the busy object. That's the request structure, we still have buttons on there. So this will also stabilize the VMOD API so that future changes, if I add stuff to this structure, you should just be able to compile your VMOD code without having to actually change it. That's a field you don't care about. And if I add them at the end, you probably don't even know to really recompile in the first place. Log filtering. This is a project Martin is working on. From day one, we wanted to have something like the TCP dump filtering language, so that you can say, show me all the requests that were misses, that came from this IP number and were not JPEGs, stuff like that. To only get out the information from the Varnish log that you really care about, because the volume in the Varnish log can be very high, and filtering it up by grep or I or Perl or whatever is not working. So we're working on changing that, bundling up the requests so that each request will have a unitary transaction, and the backend will have, and they'll be linked to each other with numbers and so on. Hopefully that will help. One of the things we've done to actually cope with the volume of it is to make it possible to simply disable some of the records, because if you're running a standard Varnish NCSA, you don't really care what's being sent to the backend, for instance. You can simply mask those out with this big map facility, saying, I don't want you to put this into the log in the first place to save bandwidth to the VSL log. Yes, we changed the workspacing also. It used to be that all the worker threads used as stacks for the workspace for handling stuff. That means that you have a lot of memory allocated per thread, even though a cache could use virtually none of it. So on a 90% cache hit rate, most of your threads would drag around a lot of memory that you never used, or you used one time out of 10, which is not very efficient. So we've changed it now so that the worker threads have virtually no memory. The default setting, I think, is 48 kilobyte of stack for the worker thread. And instead we carry the memory around in the request and the busy object structures that actually need the memory. While a session is sitting idle, it doesn't need any memory, it just needs to have a file descriptor or something. The moment they send in a request, we need space for the HTTP structure, we need space for looking up in the cache and all that stuff, for composing the response and sending that. And once we send the response, we don't need memory anymore. So this reduces the cache or the memory pressure of the worker threads a lot. You should be able to actually run more worker threads, subject to kernel limitations or whatever. So hopefully that will help performance and increase cache hit rate or something. Yeah, that's the new one. So requests have a private workspace and backends have a private workspace. That also means the parameters for sizing them are separate. So it gives an amount of control over DOS attacks that you can actually kick out large requests at one. Purge has been adopted probably. We've treated Purge quite like a stepchild until now. But I've taken the decision to actually make it a first-class citizen. So now in VCL receive you can return Purge. And we'll go down through the cache, look up, remove it. And then you end up in VCL Purge, where you can either decide to just return, say I did, or you can actually kick off a backend fetch and follow the new version of it. That simplifies stuff a bit in the VCL lookup, because you don't come into the VCL lookup without having to do anything. That will probably not be 4.0 of the filtering language, but the underlying structural changes to the VSL log will be. This kind of state of the union, I guess I'm supposed to say something about how great we're taking over the world. I did a couple of quick searches. It's very hard to actually find out how much Varnish is doing, because some people mention it in their tweets and their blogs and so on, and a lot of people just run it. The top one is the Google Trends for Varnish Cache and 503 Guru Meditation. I hate to say so, but that is a good indication that people have started running Varnish still. So it looks like we've sort of plateaued at some level. We're not growing rapidly anymore.
Or people are getting better at running their Varnish.
Well, the top one is the Varnish Cache. That's sort of flattening out. So, but I think people are getting better at it too. There's more CAN configurations for CMSs and stuff like that. So we're seeing less of those 503 burnouts. The bottom one is from Built With. I guess somebody dropped Varnish at this point. I have no idea who it was. Probably some big hosting provider or something. Or maybe
When
they
was
just
January.
January, middle of January, something. Somebody probably removed the Varnish headers. But it shows a penetration about 5% on the top 10,000 sites, and I guess 2% on the top 100,000, and 1% on the top million. That's a lot of Varnish sites.
What about the top 100?
They don't have that one. You're welcome to figure the number out.
My guess is about 85%.
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised. One interesting thing here is that there's some very big sites which are what I would call black sites, which are sites that normal people would never get near. Business-to-business APIs, governmental database lookups of public data, stuff like that. There's some very big sites in that space that run Varnish, and you never hear about them because they never appear in Google. Unless you know their API, you also not know what you can get from it. So I'm pretty happy with that. Seems we're still doing something right. So, and that brings me to the last part, the Varnish moral license. That's my way of funding my Varnish habit. And I am a one-man company in Denmark, and we have weird and strange tax laws. But basically, until now, I have not been able to work more than approximately 30% on Varnish to avoid falling into a different tax category and being treated as a, for all practical purposes, employee and stuff like that. And so my accountant actually pointed this out to me, that now that I own a piece of real estate, that picture I showed you is actually 2 plots of land. One of them is owned by my company, the other one I own privately. So my company owns real estate now. That means that restriction disappears. I can now work up to 100% on Varnish. So I'd like to increase the scope of this a bit. This is the status so far. 2012 was kind of fell to that ESO project, which took a long time. But so far I'm for 333 hours so far this year, and I'd like to increase that. The sponsors for the last year have been Varnish Software, who also host our servers and build our releases and organizes these user group meetings and print stickers and what's not. And Global Communications from South America, and Uplex from Hamburg. And that could be one age then. So going forward, I would like to try to increase that. So if your company is making good profit on Varnish, considering taking out a Varnish moral license and help fund the development of it. The only reason why it's called a license is that something about software licenses is clearly not the marketing department. So I don't get hit with binders about correct use of logos and colors and stuff like that. But contact me if this is something that's relevant for you. Those were the slides I've made. So now we're taking questions and answers, if there is any.
when are you planning on releasing 4.0?
I'll leave that to Todd. we were planning on releasing it, I think, October last year. But it actually proved harder. The architectural changes I wanted to get in 4.0 proved to be a lot harder than I initially estimated. But I think we have them under control now, so I would hope that we could have a preview release out before summer vacation. And then the real 4.0 would probably be, I don't know, August, September, something. Todd is staring at me here with
Another question. So with the HTTP 2.0, have you actually implemented any specifics on that, or is that just more like, you know, kind of foundation
I'm
work?
paving the road for being able to. We would not be in any shape to implement a speedy or HTTP 2.0 at this point because we don't have any ways to do that parallelism. So I'm sort of laying down the flagstones so we can do that later on. While I'm trying to, I'm doing it for a reason because it also gives us access to the streaming and stale while refresh and all these things. So I'm not putting in a lot of stuff that we won't need until we get HTTP 2.0. I'm just sort of moving in the general direction where we will go. It's no secret that I'm not a fan of the HTTP 2.0 proposal as it exists right now. It's wrong in so many ways that I won't bore you with them. But it doesn't have the properties I would expect from a version 2 protocol. And I think we'll see basically the same thing that happened with IT version 6. That they make a fancy new protocol and nobody uses it. So far, I've not seen the killer reason for anybody to change to HTTP 2.0. But they may stop that in later on, we'll find out, and we'll be ready. Yes, other questions? Okay, anybody awake here? You're boring. Okay then. You can always catch me on afterwards also.
Yeah.